In this session, we'll look at how data is defined and stored in a database. To get started, we'll look at the tables that are contained in the World schema. On this slide, you're looking at the schema section of the MySQL workbench expanded to show the tables that are in the World schema. There are three tables in the World schema. The tables are City. This table contains data about cities around the world. Country. This table contains data about countries. Country language. This table contains data about languages that are used in a country. The most important thing to notice about the tables is that the table name gives you an idea about the type of data that is in the table. In MySQL, a table name can contain up to 64 characters. The characters that are allowed in a name depend upon if the name is quoted or not. You can see the rules for creating schema object names at the URL shown on this slide. Although MySQL is quite permissive in how you can define a table name, you will usually find that it is easier to use simple names. Start with a letter, don't use embedded spaces, and don't use SQL reserved words as names. For example, SQL uses the word select to retrieve data from a table. You can use the word select as the name of a table, but it is not a good idea to use reserved words as the name of a table. You don't have to be too wordy when you decide on a name for a new object. For example, country language is probably a better name for a table than languages used in the country. You saw that a schema can contain one or more tables. Each table in a schema contains data, and the table name indicates the type of data that it contains. Now the question is, how is data defined in a table? On this slide, we're looking at the columns that are defined in the city table. Item 1 on this slide, shown on the left, shows the expanded column list. In this list, you can see the names of the columns in the table. Country code, district, ID, name, population. The rules for column names are similar to the rules for table names, including the maximum name length of 64. As with tables, you can see that the column names give you some idea about the type of data that is contained within each column. Keep in mind, these column names are used to define data about a city. PHPMyAdmin provides another view of columns shown on the slide at item 2. In this view, you see more data about each column. This view shows the column name. The names shown here are the same as in item 1. The column names are not shown in alphabetical order, but in the order that the columns were defined in the table. Another important part of the item 2 view is the data type. The data type is used to indicate if the data is supposed to be character data, numeric data, date data, or some other data type. Finally, the item 2 view shows additional attributes that are defined for each column. You'll learn more about some of the column attributes later in this session. The whole point of a database management system is to contain data. Data is contained in tables in a schema. Each schema can contain one or more tables. Each table is defined in terms of its columns. When data is added to a table, it is added, or to use the SQL term, inserted, by assigning values to the columns and using an SQL insert statement. You'll work with insert statements later in this course. After a successful insert on a table, the table will contain a row of data. A row contains the data that was assigned to the columns. MySQL does not impose a limit on the number of rows that a table can contain. The limit is based on how much storage is available.